Hi. Hello, welcome to this edition of the Municipal Disabilities. I have Tyler Hayes here with me, who is the CEO of Atom Limb. Tyler, welcome to the show.
Hey, yeah, really glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. And can you tell me a bit about Atom Limbs and how you got into it? I mean, why, in the first place, why prosthetics? Do you have somebody who has a disability or in your family or a loved one or something like that?
Yeah. I don't. I know that's like it's a very typical story for sure. Yeah, they know someone that lost a limb. Fortunately, I'm very glad to have both of my arms and my hands. But I certainly do know people who've lost limbs. But that actually isn't why we started Atom Limbs. Um, Atom Limbs, in short, we make mind-controlled artificial limbs. And the first product we're making is a mind-controlled bionic arm. And every part of it's real. So like mind-controlled is real, bionic is real, the arm is real. It's based on research and development that's been performed over the last 10 years in the US. It's been funded about $100 million by the US government. And so it's an extremely advanced piece of technology. About 20 people have used it so far in the US in different human trials. So it's not on the market yet. You can't buy it yet. But folks from civilians to veterans have used the arm, and we're really excited to bring it to market. But then, to your question, why are we doing this at all? I think it's really two things. One is that I think everyone on our team is very, very in on this one concept, which is just ending disability and ending death. Like we just view these concepts as very unnecessary. Like it's not that they were ever necessary, right? But like we can literally solve them now. We can send rockets to the moon and to Mars. We can send probes into space. We have electric cars, but like we can't have better limbs. Like it seems like the technology should be there. You know what I mean?
Isn't that rather a bit idealistic?
It could be. It certainly could be. Yeah. But like we choose to be idealistic, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so how did you start? What is your background?
My background is so I live in San Francisco. I grew up in the Midwest of the US. I grew up in Minnesota. So, like, farm boy, came to Silicon Valley. And my academic background was I studied neuroscience. I wanted to be a neurosurgeon really badly. And then I remember I shadowed the program. And at the end of the day, I was like, hey, this was a really fun day. And they said, yeah, this was super fun. And I said, well, what do we do next? And they said, under no circumstances should you become a neurosurgeon.
Wow.
And I was like, wait, what? Why shouldn't I be a neurosurgeon? And what they said basically is, look, you're a nice guy, you're smart, but you're way too ADHD. You're going to suffer through this. You're going to basically have to read books for 15 years, and you're just going to suffer. And honestly, I think they were 100% right. I don't think I would have enjoyed reading books for 15 years. So left that world, moved out to Silicon Valley. For the last 10 years, I've been starting and joining and scaling hypergrowth startups. My last company, Bebo, we sold to Amazon a couple of years ago. And then I left and in stealth started Atom Limbs. I also advise and invest in a number of longevity and anti-aging companies. And that's really what I try to do with my time. So the last 10 years in Silicon Valley has been starting and selling technology companies that are from either healthcare or social networks or anywhere else. And then now we're kind of doing the big one, which is, actual artificial limbs, true hardware, not just software, really helping people, not just kind of talking about it. So that's it's all sort of dovetailed for me very nicely as I've gotten older, from bringing neuroscience into the technology world and then helping people, which is really, really important to me. I really try to only work on problems I call the meaningful fundamentals. And meaningful fundamentals to me are like the human rights kind of things. Do you have access to water, food, shelter, healthcare, education, all those kinds of things? Hence, trying to give people limbs back, when they're disabled.
It's really cool. I mean, when I saw it, I thought it was something from Robocop or Terminator, one of those futuristic movies that we used to watch. It's really cool, and I like the material that is used to make it. I mean, it makes
Oh,
it,
sure.
it makes it exciting having one. So And
Yeah.
for me, I think people with disabilities need to get to the point where we are excited about using our assistive devices, and it's not just a chore for us to use it.
Yeah,
It should bring us a sense of pride. So these days
I agree.
we have all these people pimping up their crutches and their wheelchairs, color, putting, putting,
Yeah,
putting brightly colored wallpapers and things on them and all that stuff to make it look good. Because I mean, and for me, I think that that should tell us that people with disabilities are getting to the point where they realize that it is okay to have a disability. It's not the end of the world.
totally.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And and I
Yeah.
and I think I realized that though I am in Ghana and and we have different experiences, that the underlying thing is the same across the world. People with disabilities do not feel accepted by society, no matter how advanced that society is, because we always run into barriers,
Sure.
whether physical, societal, or whatever. And and I think that, I mean, with you wanting to end disability and all that stuff, you and I know that it will not happen in our lifetime. I mean, let's be real, it will not happen in our lifetime. So, what else do you think can be done to make society more more accessible for people with disabilities, apart from you coming up with
Um,
these cool gadgets and all that? I mean, for me.
that's such a big question, Frida. Oh my God. It's a good question though. Yeah, I think it gets to two things. One is, you were talking about design, and design is so important in these things. Like we use iPhones and computers and AirPods and all these beautiful products around us. I don't understand. I never really understood why we don't apply that same level of design to things that we have to use, like crutches or wheelchairs or prosthetics or orthotics. And then when I finally started to get into this world, I learned this, really kind of sadly, excuse my language, was sort of damning truth, which is the medical device world, at least in the United States, doesn't really talk to the technology world in that way. Apple designers and so that's one of the things we decided to do really consciously. And so when you're asking, like, how do we start to increase acceptability and normalize these things, in the world that we live in, I think a huge part of it does come literally visual design, but also just all design. It's things you want it, you want to be excited about the product. If you're an amputee and you're excited about your arm because it looks so cool and it's so beautiful and it's so powerful, then other people are going to feel that excitement, and it gets normalized as it should be. Why wouldn't it be normal? And so that's one of the reasons why we stacked the deck with our team, right? Like, we didn't just go and get people from the medical device world. Our founding team is, Apple designers and NASA engineers and people who've built the most successful, most beautiful products of all time. So I think we need a lot more of that from our side, from the industry side. Like, I think from the patient side or the user side, it's so great to see people creating like patient advocacy groups and all these things, but the industry needs to step up way more. People in the business side need to step up way more with better design and really talking to their users and their customers and making things that look good and feel good and actually are powerful replacements for what we have. So I really hope and I expect the next decade or two to become that time finding. I think that technology's gotten cheap enough, and we have enough people who are now looking to leave Google and leave Apple and go do more meaningful things, and we should start seeing a lot of that. I see a lot of it here already.
But do you think that the reason why up to now it hasn't been as as exciting or as whatever for the business world is because people with disabilities do not have that much spending power?
So are you asking why Apple hasn't gotten into that kind of product game, or what are you thinking? What do you mean?
Yes, I think
Yeah.
it's mainly because people with disabilities up to the last 15, 10 years, most of them really didn't work. I mean, we didn't have funding power. So right now that
Yeah.
things have changed and people with disabilities are becoming more accepted into society. Some of them, most of them are well, most of them, of course, it depends on how extensive your disability is, but a number of them are actually getting into the job market, and they are now getting
Hmm.
a lot more spending power than they were 10
Yeah.
to 20 years ago. And let's face it, money talks. I mean, we can we can
Oh
we can
yeah.
we can pity it up and say that, oh, we want to be philanthropic and all that stuff, but you cannot be philanthropic all the time. You need to reap the investment of a philanthropy. I mean, so
Exactly.
so I think that as people with disabilities become more economically empowered, then the industry would find it more I mean interesting, as well as worthy of investment to invest in some of these things for us.
Yeah. I think you're 100% right. I think that that is a huge cause of the problem. It's also the solution to the problem. To kind of to your point, companies aren't going to make products for people who aren't economically empowered, but people can't be economically empowered if they can't work.
Yes,
And they can't work unless they have products to help them work. So it's like this
exactly.
vicious cycle.
Yeah,
And I think you're totally 100% right. And I know that, a lot of people look at us, for example, and they see us, making like a breakthrough arm. Um, but at the same time, we're fully aware that like it's not available to everyone, right? It is a very premium arm basically to start, but we don't want to stay that way forever, right? We're literally only trying to make the breakthrough arm first and then make it cheaper as quickly as possible, because you can't go the other direction. Sadly, you can't basically make the commodity arm and then try to improve and make more advanced stuff. You really need to try to make the advanced thing first and then bring the cost down. That's just typically how things unfold. Like computers used to be huge and expensive.
yeah.
Electricity used to be cheaper. We can give it to more people. And I think, I don't know exactly how fast that's going to happen, but I would certainly expect with prosthetics specifically, the next decade or two is going to finally be that time when, it's not just going to be sort of the 1% of countries like the US and the UK and maybe Australia and maybe China, sort of get like the best prosthetics. Like they can finally become affordable enough that everyone will be able to use them, and that is going to just cause this Cambrian explosion of way more innovation in this space. And so I would actually expect to see things tick up basically starting now in terms of like innovation in the prosthetic space and the bionic space.
So do you have a focus group you work with?
Yeah, we absolutely do. We're always looking for more people though. We have a few hundred people on a wait list for our product right now. And then we also have what we call our alpha partner program. So anyone who's looking to get involved with us, we have like a private Discord they can join and chat with us. And we sort of load them up with like cool Adam Lim swag, like kind of like the sweatshirt, and give them access to, they'll get early access to the arm when it comes out. And we're going to give them some discounts on the arm. Um, and what we do in exchange, for that is we just want their feedback about designs as we release them. And when COVID eases up in the US, we want to bring them to our headquarters to be able to play with it and try it out and put it through its paces. So the best way that anyone could find that is literally just to go to twitter.com/AdamLimbs and just send us a DM and say, hey, I want to be a part of this Alpha Partner program. But like I said, we're always looking for more people. But I'm curious why you asked. What was on your mind?
No, because previously what we have realized is that products are built for us without our input. So it comes out and we have to adapt and figure out how to use it rather than it being built with our input into the design.
Yeah, yeah, and then we absolutely don't want to let that happen. I think that about half of the prosthetic hands you see today were designed kind of in a vacuum, not
Yeah.
really with a lot of patient input. And for what it's worth, I also don't like that word patient. Like, we need a better word than that, like user input or customer input or whatever. But like
Yes.
patient just makes it feel so medical and so sterile. No, yeah, we absolutely talk with people day in, day out. I basically have a rule that we have to have at least 100 conversations every month with our users, and at least one a day. So there's a channel in our company Slack that's just constantly updated. It's called Let's Learn, and it just constantly has new learnings we're getting every day from people.
So what feedback did you get from the amputee community
Yeah.
that made you want to do such an arm for them?
I mean, I guess I even hate to mention this story because it's so like kind of depressing, but it's true. But basically, when we were still exploring whether or not we really wanted to bring this arm to market, which sounds like even a crazy concept, like world's most advanced arm, should we give it to people? Like, kind of duh, yes, do it. But one of the things I did is I flew to San Diego, which is where the I think it was San Antonio in Texas, where the Amputee Coalition conference was happening. There's about 1,500 amputees that attend there. And I didn't tell anyone who I was. I didn't say I was part of this company or anything like that. I just wanted to go and learn. And I just basically stayed there for 4 days and just, walked the halls and attended the sessions and met as many people and just listen as much as I could. And I heard this really consistent joke from all the arm amputees that they all were telling. And what they would say was, all the leg amputees were walking around and they were wearing their leg prosthetics. Anyone who had had an arm amputation was walking around and they weren't wearing an arm prosthetic. And I was looking around thinking, why aren't any people without arms wearing their prosthetic? And I finally started just asking some folks, and what they would say is, I would ask them, do you have a prosthetic arm? And they go, oh yeah, it's great. It's in my closet. Let me go get it. And they just kept telling the same joke that they would put it in their closet. And I asked them why, and they said, because it can't do anything and it breaks and it's ugly. And it turns out that there's this really evil truth in the prosthetic arm industry. I'll just say this one more thing here, which is leg amputees versus arm amputees have extremely different adoption rates of products because they're not as good. People with a leg amputation in the US, 4 out of 5 use their leg prosthetic. They get a leg prosthetic. That's pretty good, 80%. Arm amputees in the US, 1 out of 5 use their prosthetic. So only 20%, because they can't do that much. And it's because leg prosthetics are just frankly much easier to create. You kind of need this thing that can, joint a little bit and you can stand on it. But an arm is really a hand. And so you need all the nuance of fingers, and it's really hard to recreate that, which is why we worked so hard on doing that. And so to answer your question, that was the thing that really got us to want to do it. Because, besides the fact that obviously we want to give people limbs back, there was this massive gap that no one was talking about, and it didn't seem like anyone else was solving. So that's why we solved it, basically.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen so that we can see a video of your stuff.
Ooh, awesome. Yeah, let's do it.
Then we will ask a couple of questions.
Okay. Oh boy, just putting our whole website on.
No, that is a long one. I want the short one. This one, yeah.
That is,
That is 8 minutes.
they're on the homepage. I think there's about a 10 to 20 second loop if you're looking for something a little bit shorter.
Okay, let me go there.
Yeah, or I could send you a link to the YouTube video, which is the 30-second product video.
Is it this one?
It's not that one, but that's a good little 3D loop to show for sure.
So let me
Yeah.
let me just go to the home page. Let me just go to the home page.
Sure.
Okay. I told you it reminds me of E.T.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It
Because of the
looks
finger, or?
no. I mean, it looks like E.T. Remember the movie E.T. From the early 80s?
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look at it. It just looks like E.T.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've never heard that, but yeah, I can totally see it.
yeah.
Yeah. So this, what's just sort of quickly interesting about this here is that, you can see that true finger movement, which no one else has been able to recreate before. You see this really fine level finger movement. And then the guy in the video, his name is Johnny Matheny, just an incredible human being. He wore it for a whole year. He took it home for a year.
Wow, wow, wow. So, 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 what I like about it is that have you seen on the finger that there are actually two joints. There's the first joint and the second joint, and you can move and you're able to move all of them. So it's not
Yeah.
it really does mimic the real hand hand movement experience.
Yeah, I think that that was my first reaction, when we really started to see the movement too, is, the human hand, you've got this flexion and extension of your fingers,
Yeah,
which is just kind of opening and closing. And then you have this adduction and this abduction, we move your fingers side to side.
yeah,
And that's really what starts to kind of create a full sense of real movement. You don't really think about it that you have this sort of side to side movement, but when you grab a mug, for example, right? If it kind of grips at different places, and so you need a little bit of spread or to be able to pull together, and and you grab proportionally, right? You don't always kind of perfectly curl your fingers. Kind of each one goes at its different point, and it's that little bit of nuance that I think really makes it start to look humanistic.
and the thing is that until you have to program something like that, you, you, you never pay attention to the final details.
No, right? I mean, you have to be able to get to that point. Yeah, exactly. Only when you kind of accomplish everything else can you even get to that point. This is super interesting, by the way. That gentleman right there, his name is Les Baugh. He was the first bilateral amputee, so both arms.
Okay.
Les has an incredible story. He basically fell on a power line and his arms were electrocuted,
I,
and so he lost his arms all the way up to his shoulders, and so he was able to control each arm independently, which is incredible. And just by thinking, right, it's not like he's doing any sort of artificial control there. He's just thinking and it's just moving just
so,
normally.
so let's go to the so let me ask the ultimate question. How does it work?
Okay.
How does it work?
Yeah. How does it work? Yeah, best question. Yeah. I can neither confirm nor deny that it's yeah, no. It's actually very simple. So the way it works is we don't put like a cap on your head. When we say it's mind controlled, it's not mind reading. We don't put anything in your brain. We don't put a cap on your head. What we do is we put a little cuff around your arm, around your residual limb. So the stump or the nub or the residual limb. And that cuff uses EMG, just like your doctor would, to listen to the signals in your muscles and your nerves. And then literally what happens is you think you want to move your phantom limb. You don't have the organic limb, but you have a phantom limb. So people who have lost a limb actually still feel their phantom limb. So you think you want to move it. The signal travels from your brain down your spinal cord and out your nerves, and then it emanates, through your muscles. And so when you do that, we can hear the signal through your skin. And then we take that signal and we send it wirelessly over to the robotic arm, where it uses artificial intelligence to interpret exactly what you're trying to do. And then it just moves as you intend to in real time. Now, that makes it sound really simple, like it's just a signal that travels and we hear it and send it over and then it works. I mean, there's obviously an incredible amount of artificial intelligence that's in there that has basically sort of profiled your musculature and your biology to make sure that it moves as you intended to. And it does have to be per person. It is unique to you. Each individual person has incredibly different musculature. And when you're talking about an amputation, your musculature changes even more. So we need to basically spend about 2 to 5 minutes when you first put it on, put the band on, do a little quick 2 to 5 minute training process, and then boom, you're ready to go and you can use it.
So it has to be built for you per se. I mean, in terms of the size and all that stuff, because obviously somebody
Yes.
with a bigger arm fit cannot fit one
Yeah.
with a smaller arm and all those things. So it has to be customized.
Yeah, and what we call it, we say it's personalized, not customized, because
Okay.
it's sort of like if you buy a car, you know,
Yeah.
you can ask for the car to be in red or black or white, but you can't say I want a car with 6 wheels or 2 engines.
Yeah.
So, you know, with us, it's sort of like you're going to get the same technology in the arm, but absolutely, you know, it will be sort of any major announcements on how we're doing that yet, but we're going to have some exciting stuff, hopefully later this year, with how we're going to be able to make it unique to everyone's different proportions, which actually also has not been done in the prosthetic space yet.
Are you just doing it for adults? How about children?
Not children yet. Yeah, just adults. That's the one thing we're sort of blocked on right now, is that for making it for children, um, we haven't gotten the cost quite down far enough yet to be able to produce it for children. But we absolutely want to. And the magical thing there, of course, is with a child, they grow so quickly. So every
Yes.
year or two, you're going to need to be replacing it.
Yeah.
But we think we have a way that we can do that too. That's actually still fairly cost effective, but it probably won't. Very, very honestly, just clearly, it won't be till probably the second or maybe third product line. Yeah.
So can you tell us averagely the cost of the arm and the average?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the US, it's billed through insurance and it costs about $100,000, which
Okay.
is about what advanced prosthetic arms cost today. They can actually run up to $150,000 or $200,000. I just saw a bill last week for a prosthetic arm that was $170,000. Not our arm, someone else's, you know, hand and then sort of socket system.
Yeah.
So, you know, these things can get very expensive very quickly, but thankfully that's what insurance is for. We basically just think of us like Tesla, where they came out with their Roadster and then the Model
Yeah.
S and then the Model 3, and they're trying to make it more affordable. Same exact concept here. So we have our first Atom Touch arm, and then we'll release the second arm and the third arm, as well as the legs and everything else, and make it cheaper, you know, as quickly as we can.
Okay. Do you think I mean I'm sure a large number of amputees are people in the military who have had their arm blown off or been injured by a shrapnel or something like that, and because of that they have to retire. Do you think your product would be so advanced that an officer who has become an amputee can use it and still be in active service in the military?
Uh,
That is a tough question.
yeah, you got all the tough questions today.
Yeah.
You're just giving me the good ones. I love it. This is great. Yeah. Do you do this to everyone? This is just like being on fire.
I like to get people to think out of the box. And yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, massive respect for that. Yeah. You know, I think there's a couple different levels of that. One is, can you just get someone back to their job in general, whether it's active service duty in the military or just a job in the civilian workforce? And either way, the answer is going to be yes. We want to get someone back to the work they want to do, and they're blocked on a lot of that today. And it's really, you know, it's everything from demoralizing to non-productive to can cause things like homelessness and poverty. Right? You literally, if you can't work in a country like the U.S., you know, you often don't end up in a great place, which is really sad. With service duties in specific, I think, it'd be realistic, not in the too distant future, in like the next 2 to 5 years, to expect someone to be able to use our arm and return to service for something like, cargo duty or working in an office facility. I don't think it'd be realistic to put them out into the campaign of war. I think that, given enough time, absolutely, give it 10 or 20 years, the arm will be just as good as a human arm. And so there's no reason you wouldn't be able to have anyone return to full duty if they're a war fighter, basically. I think that, the bigger question there, I think, on my mind is, what's kind of what's the difficulty on the human side of that? I think there is, a lot more to reckon with someone who's lost a limb, for example, than just the physical limb loss. And so I would actually think that getting someone back out into duty will, in 10 or 20 years, be much more blocked on PTSD recovery.
Yeah, I agree.
And emotional therapy than it will be on the physical limb restoration. Yeah. What do you think about that? I'm curious.
I think, as you rightly said, I mean, there's a lot of emotional consequences to losing any part of your body, which you have to deal with. I mean, even people who don't lose a body part but get into a state of disability, they have to realign their emotions and their psychological being to be able to accept that this is where I am at this point in my life. I mean, I always say that those of us who were disabled from birth, we are much better off than people who are disabled halfway through their life, because this is all we know. You can't miss a life that you don't know, as opposed to people who have had a different life.
Interesting.
Then halfway through their life, they are struck with a disability, and suddenly they find themselves living a completely different life than what they are used to. So I mean and that is why most of them have high suicide rates. They go into depression and all those things, because this is not what they are used to. So
Yeah.
So
it's tough. Yeah, we have conversations pretty regularly with people who were born with a congenital limb difference versus someone who's actually lost a limb, and it's very different for sure.
Yeah. So my last question is, how much weight can the arm take?
How much weight? Like how much can it lift or hold?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good note to end on. Yeah. So it's incredibly strong. So the arm can bicep curl 45 pounds, which is more than I can bicep curl with one arm. Like I think I could maybe do like 35 pounds. Like 45 pounds is pretty incredible. And it can hold, 100 pounds or more, just sort of statically holding. And we actually think we can make it even stronger than that.
What is it made from? Is it made from iron or carbon or what? What is it made from?
Yeah, it's a lot of things. We don't have all the final materials and surfaces and textures yet, but largely it's everything from carbon fiber to aluminum to titanium.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Tyler, thank you so much for coming on the show. I hope you have had as much fun as I have with you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me on. This was great. This is the best possible way to start my day. It's a great conversation.
Okay. So I hope to have you back on maybe in a few months' time, so that we can track the progress of the limb, and maybe when you're able to get cheaper and more affordable limbs, you can start looking at third world countries like Sierra Leone, where there are lots of amputees because of the civil war and other things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that thanks for saying that, by the way. If there is anyone who ends up watching this or listening to this and does want to get in touch with us because they think that we can help, bring those to those countries and they can help us do that, please, it's never too early to start those conversations, which is one of the reasons I really appreciated, even just you and I talking about this, right? Because getting this in front of more people and increasing awareness is going to be the thing that gets us to those countries faster, right? And starting to talk to people there and see how we can do it and roll it out. And maybe there's a world where we can get it there faster than even we know about. So yeah, we're super excited to do that. And absolutely, let's do this again in a few months. We'll do it every 3 months. You call me in the morning, I'll have my coffee ready, and we'll do it.
I will. Thank you. Have a terrific day. Bye bye.
All right, thank you. You too. Take care.
Bye.